Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
And this is Estela.
And welcome to
Cafecito
and Crime.
That was a lot of wind.
That was a little gust. That was a little gust of wind. I don't know what the hell that was. We're obviously in the HQ of Cafecito and Crime, and our HQ so happens to be in my garage, and the garage doors were being weird.
No, like you just hear like a gust of wind.
We both looked back like, what the?
And it's not like it's dark or anything. The sun's out and stuff.
The sun is out and everything. Yesterday they were like over there in the north. They were having a lot of like rain and storms.
It had been cloudy the past couple of days, but no ha llovido.
No, but up there, like in the north, like over there in Dallas and stuff, I know that for a fact. My sister was telling me that they were waiting for like big storms.
I don't think it's supposed to rain here like until next week.
Well, yeah. Oh,
but
okay. Any okay. Fast and Furious cars.
This is a residential area.
Yeah, this is residential area. Welcome back to our pod. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to... Well, how you been? How's your week been? I don't even know. This is episode 100.
It is. Oh, yeah, it is. My week
100.
has been... It's only Tuesday, but, you know, it feels like it's Thursday.
It should be Thursday. On my book, it should be Thursday. I have had a long week.
I have had a good couple of days. I mean, you know.
Simple.
Yeah.
Just basic shit.
Life.
Life. Yeah, life.
Non-problematic.
Non-problematic, yeah. So we are in episode 100. Thank you for everybody that has made it to episode 100.
Yes,
we appreciate all of your support. You have no idea. Because sometimes it does get it gets difficult.
Yeah.
Out here for a pimp.
In these streets.
It's kind of hard. But if you have not heard us before, welcome to our pod. So today, the episode will be brought to you by Estela. So where are we going today?
Okay, so for today's case...
It's because my neighbor, like the lady in the front, so for everyone that's listening, we record in the garage. So I can see my neighbor from here, and she never sits outside. For some reason, she's sitting outside. But the weirdest thing is that she has this como turtle. And remember I showed it to you? So she has a turtle, and it's probably a little bit bigger than maybe like a
foot?
Maybe a little bit bigger than a foot. But you can see it from over here from across, right? And she has it on top of like some white rocks. And the white rocks look like eggs.
Like she's laying, like the turtle.
Like the turtle had laid eggs.
Yeah.
But it was weird because she had a tree there, so she took off the tree. Pero anyway, it's like como un throne for para la tortuga, right? So then, ayer que me fijé, ya no estaba la pinche puta tortuga. So I don't know what happened to the tortuga. I don't know if maybe it washed away, or did she take it away?
Washed away how?
I don't know. Maybe the tortuga became to life because it wasn't a real tortuga.
Oh, they were talking about real turtle.
No, it was like a ceramic turtle.
Yeah, like the decoración.
Sí, the decoración. And then she just has it there. And then she has all these like stones. They're like pebbles and they look like eggs. It's so fucking weird.
I'm like, what are you
So then I'm like staring at her because she's out there, whatever. I'm like, okay, is she going to come back and put the turtle back? So anyway, where are we going today?
Okay, let's get back to it.
Yeah.
For today's case, we are going to Westerfeld, which is located in Rotenburg, Hesse, Germany. Yeah.
First of all, Westerfeld?
Westerfeld.
Sounds like you're not finished saying the name.
No, that's the name.
Así se llama el city.
No, it's not even a city. That's the fun fact. That's what we're going to get into it.
Okay. Well, now, if you want to come with us to Westerfeld?
Westerfeld.
To the Westerfeld?
Westerfeld.
Then grab your cafecitos.
And let's get started. Now, the fun, random, interesting fact about Westerfeld is that it is considered a hamlet. A hamlet is a small settlement smaller than a village, and it has no central place of worship and no meeting point.
Hamlet reminds me of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No.
Nada que ver. Okay.
No.
Well, okay. Interesting.
So it's smaller than a village, and we're going to get into the population of Westerveld in like a little bit as we get into the case.
It's smaller than a village, but bigger than a town?
No.
¿Cómo?
Because a village, it's not bigger than a town.
¿Es un rancho?
Not even. It's a small settlement. It has no central place, no place of worship. It doesn't even have a church.
That's incredible because at Houston,
and no
we have
meeting point. Well, you can fucking compare the fourth largest city in the U.S. to a little hamlet.
I don't know, but I don't know what that hamlet means. And it sounds like you're calling me names right now.
No.
Oh, okay. Are you being disrespectful?
What did you call me?
What did you call me?
No, I'm not. No. But we're going to get into that. Yeah, but that's just how small it is. It's smaller than a village. It has, again...
Pero no es rancho.
It has no central place of worship. No, because even the ranchos that we know have churches.
Pero maybe it's like a rancho, like...
No.
Is there more than 2 people?
Yes. Barely.
Barely 2 people.
Barely more than 2 people. But... just that's the random fact about Westerveld. And we will be discussing the case of Armin Meiwes.
God, that will get...
Who is a cannibal.
Está cabrón.
So if obviously, I'm not going to get into a lot of the details.
Why not? No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Because it gets pretty gruesome.
Pero, the whole case has names that we can't mention, that we can't say? Or
no.
Or those are just like the...
No, I mean, no. What do you mean names?
No, okay. ¿Y luego? I'm confused.
Drink your caffeine, girl.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ya se metió la vecina, guys. Ya no está. Ya se fue. Y no sacó el turtle ya.
So obviously, like, if you don't want to listen to this, it can get kind of graphic. Of course, you can skip it. I'll also be giving like warnings before I go into like any explicit details. But
you're more than welcome to see us in episode 99.
Or 101.
Or 101. Yeah.
Si os quiere. Okay. So Armin Meiwes was born in Essen, which is a city in West Germany, on December 1st of 1961 to parents Waltraud, which is his mom, and then Dieter Meiwes. And he was the couple's first child. But he was the third son of Waltraud, su mom. Porque she had 2 other boys from her first marriage.
So Waltraud es su mamá?
Yes.
Okay. ¿Y cómo se llama su papá?
Dieter.
Okay,
yes.
So Waltraud is su mamá. I don't know why I thought Waltraud sounded like a man's name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 1965, the Meiwes family bought a manor in Westerveld, near Rotenburg, which was more in the center of Germany and about 2.5 hours from Essen. They didn't live there full time. They mostly spent most of their vacations there. And it was reported that at the time, Westerveld had about 25 inhabitants.
25.
25.
Mm-hmm. Pero con vacas y todo o nada más?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Waltraud came from a well-off family. So I'm assuming that's how they were able to buy that 30 or 36 room manor. And there was also stables on the property.
So es una casa.
It's a manor, yeah. It's like a ginormous farmhouse.
A farmhouse.
Yeah,
okay,
like a big farmhouse.
Okay.
But they refer to it as a manor.
So then ahí vivía toda la gente.
No. It's just them.
Kids.
It's just them, the family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just the family. And like I just said, they spend their vacation time ahí. Like, I'm not sure they've had horses or anything. Like, it doesn't mention any horses. But Armin did have like a white pony. Se llamaba Polly.
Oh, Polly the pony.
Y también tenía una little carriage where él se subía a la little carriage y luego Polly pues lo jalaba.
That's cool.
Ahí se paseaba con su little pony.
¿Y luego el pony le daba?
Sí.
Oh.
Well, he was little también.
No, pues digo yo porque a veces los ponis son medios burros.
Let's take a quick break.
Persons of Interest is back, and it's bigger than ever.
That scream will echo in my head for many years.
Taser! Taser! He's gonna shoot!
Oi! Shot fired. Shots fired.
Stay out! You got a gun on you!
He had the perfect aim.
I am absolutely stressed at that point. I have no idea where my officers are.
Persons of Interest available everywhere you get your podcasts.
Since Westerveld was so small, obviously there was hardly any children, if any at all. And Armin did have a friend. I mean, he had his brothers, but he also had a friend and a neighbor boy. His name is Manfred Stuck, who was the only other boy his age.
Manfred.
In the village. According to Manfred, they were really good friends. And así jugaban, like little kids, niños chiquitos, y Polly, pues también Manfred se subía con Armin in a little carriage, y Polly pues los andaba jalando, and they would go riding into the woods and playing, just little kid shit. So it seemed like Armin, for the most part, had like a regular childhood, I guess. Well-off childhood. I mean, tenía dinero.
Nothing like, ¿cómo se le llama? Traumatic ni nada de eso. Okay.
Until the following events that would change him for the worst, I would think. So the first event was that one of his brothers left them and went to go live with his real dad. Well, not his real dad, but his biological dad.
Yeah.
After that, his dad left the family.
Oh.
Dieter and his wife, Waltrud, se separaron. Se agarraban de la greña. And then he was just like, I can't do this anymore. And she was like, oh, you're having an affair. And I don't know if that was true or not, but he was just like, we can't keep doing this.
Tóxica la mujer.
So se fue. And after the separation, Dieter didn't make much of an effort to spend any time with his son, Armin. And there was some limited contact, a visit every year or two.
Damn.
Y nomás pagaba child support, but that's about it.
No, pues por lo menos pagaba.
And lastly, his other brother también se fue a vivir con the first brother, se fueron con su dad, and they lived in Berlin. So
se quedó el solito. Oh.
Now he was completely alone, and the abandonment of his father affected him deeply. And on top of that, both of his brothers left, and I think he was really close to one of his brothers. So
how old was he at this time?
He was like, I want to say he was probably like 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's a crucial time of your life, yeah.
And he kind of retreated into himself, and he spent a lot of time alone and created an imaginary friend. Which he believed would never leave him and would be always a part of him.
No, pobrecito.
That left Armin as his mother's sole focus. She poured all her energy into him, which would not be the best thing for him in the coming years or since that point on. After his dad left, his mom grew like bitter towards men. Y todo se lo sacaba contra Armin. She became very controlling Barbie until his adulthood. And we'll get to that too. Pero she made him do like all the household chores. Lo ponía a limpiar. She would send him to do the shopping for the house. It is reported that she would call him Mädchen, which means like servant in Old German.
Oh, wow.
She also sent him dressed to school in a more traditional like Bavarian lederhosen. When like all the other boys at that time, I think it was like early 70s, maybe 1970, 1971, ya los niños, they were using plain jeans. Y él no, él llegaba con the lederhosen. And
so se rían de él.
Se rían de él, yeah. And they would call him oddball, mama's boy, a kooky one. Y tampoco...
Como cookie, like a cookie?
Like cookie, like...
Oh, como loco. Yo pensé galleta.
You hungry?
Like a cookie? Like, damn, okay, I want one.
He did have like a friend or two, or cuando they would come and knock on the door, que preguntaban los niños to want to play with Armin. Ella les decía that he was grounded porque no hizo caso or something like that. So she didn't even...
I guess
she was isolating him.
Yeah, I guess she tried to turn him into like her husband, como que hiciera todo lo que no hacía el marido, you know?
A lo mejor, yeah. I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah, so a lo mejor como que quería que... Controlarlo.
She couldn't control anything else, yeah. And at night, he talked to his imaginary friend, que le puso Frankie.
Al friend.
Okay. Al F, who he named after a boy everybody liked in school and everybody wanted to be like. He told Frankie, cuando hablaba con Frankie, le decía how he missed his dad and how he missed his brother. Y también le contaba, it's like he was talking to a friend, como que se estaba desahogando. Le decía, oh, my mom's mad at me today because I didn't do this. And, Frankie would just listen to everything that he had to say. He would agree with him. And Frankie le decía, I'm going to be your friend forever. Or, you're right. Whatever happened to you, you have a right to feel the way that you do. Now, it was when Armin was 10 that his interest in cannibalism began. Mm-hmm. And it was ignited by a novel that was called Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe, which was first published in April of 1719. In this novel, Robinson Crusoe ends up as a castaway on an island in the Caribbean for 26 years. And he is the only survivor of his ship, which was destroyed in a storm. And so he's alone in this island, or he thinks. And then he ends up finding like a human footprint on the island. And he eventually comes across a group of natives who would bring captives to the island to kill and eat them. So Robinson Crusoe ends up rescuing the natives' next victim, and they become best friends forever, right?
Yeah.
So Armin somehow interpreted and took from this story that if he ate somebody, they would be with him forever.
Oh.
And
like inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
He also liked to watch a show called Flipper, which is about a dolphin. Is that your throat?
No, it's my throat.
But the show Flipper, he didn't like to watch it for the dolphin. It was because of the dolphin's owner, que se llamaba in the show, se llamaba Sandy.
Uh-huh.
And Sandy he was a boy. Sandy was popular, successful, young, good looking, and blonde. And he was the perfect boy to be in his mind. And according to Armin, he wanted to be just like Sandy. And that was somebody that he would want to have in his life. So he fantasized about eating Sandy so he could have him with him forever and also take on some of the characteristics of Sandy.
So in his mind, if he would eat these people, he was eating them to turn himself into these people?
So it would be with him forever. And then take on some of their characteristics. So he would go on to spend hours watching butchers preparing meat. He also liked to watch the most gruesome movies and horror movies that he could find where organs were ripped out of people and such. And it is reported that at the age of 12, he thought of eating another boy. The thought of eating another boy began to arouse him sexually. So when Armin was 16, him and his mother actually moved to the Westerveld home full time. Yeah, he was going to find a school nearby that he could finish school at. And her domineering ways hadn't lessened as Armin grew up, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. Cuando, they would invite, since Westerveld was so small, when there was a little gathering, you could not invite them, even though people thought they were kind of weird, right? Mm-hmm. So when they would go to a gathering, she would always complain to Mama, the music's too loud, there's a lot of people, nomás ponía de amargada. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Y cuando a él lo invitaban and he would go by himself, he had to be home a las 10. And then
at 16?
Yeah.
Okay.
She even corrected the way he held his fork and knife, his cutlery and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Now, in January of 1981, at the age of 19, he actually left home and joined the West German Army and became part of the 52nd Armored Infantry Battalion in Rotenburg and he wanted that to become his career. He spent 12 years in the armed forces as a non-commissioned officer in ordnance, which is, I was like, what does that mean, right? Because I didn't know. And an NCO is a military officer who has yet to earn a rank or a commission, but they hold a leadership position regardless. Mm-hmm. So even though he was in the armed forces, he would still go home to his mom's at night since it was stationed in Rotenburg, and it wasn't far. So la señora todavía andaba, I don't want to say que andaba de metiche, pero andaba de metida. She'd go to troop outings with them. And when it was out of town, él se quedaba con su mom. It's
because he didn't know any better. Yeah. It wasn't like he was doing it to be a mama's boy or anything like that. It's because that's what he grew up.
Since he was a boy.
It wasn't like he was doing it on purpose or something that he was trying to yes, he was a little weird. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's not, but in his mind, that's normal.
That's all he knew. Yes.
Yeah, because that's all he knew.
Yeah. And on the rare occasion that he went on dates, his mom chaperoned, she'd be in the back seat when him and the girl were in the car and they were just talking or whatever, parked somewhere. And according to his mom, and you just said, he didn't think that was weird that his mom would chaperone the dates when girls wanted to just be them too.
He probably was oh, well, this is what everybody does.
Yeah, that's what he thought.
He didn't know any different. Yeah.
And according to his mom, no woman was good enough for her son. She criticized every one of them. And to him, if no woman was good enough for him, according to his mom, he certainly couldn't bring around a male friend. That would just be a big no-no to his mom. And Armin himself wasn't sure if he was gay. He didn't even he himself was confused at that time. He once asked Manfred, like le preguntó a Manfred if he thought that he was gay. And Manfred was like, dude, that's something that you need to figure out on your own. Just like, I can't tell you that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, he probably didn't even know what he was feeling. Like, his mom wouldn't even let him have his own feelings.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad it was. Like, hay personas que they don't even let you...
Like, you don't even have
yourself,
confidence.
like, oh, okay, well, this is what I make my own decision.
Right,
And, okay,
yeah.
yes, I like to go out with girls or boys or whatever it is. They don't even have that mentality of, I can do this on my own. I can make my own decision.
Or like, my mom's not gonna, you know.
Yeah. You imagine, like, if she would get mad for a woman not being, ¿te imaginas si le dijera, oh, mom, I want to date a man?
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah. But as far as I know that I could find, Armin never came out of the closet, or he never declared to have been in a relationship with the male partner or anything like that. Now, in 1991, he was essentially kicked out of the army because he didn't have any leadership skills, and he wasn't good at commanding any men, which, I mean, you fucking need in the armed forces.
Definitely.
Before they kicked him out, they're like, okay, you need to find a profession. So once you're out, you can do that, you know? So he actually was trained to be a computer technician and got a job working for a company that serviced the ATMs for a chain of banks. And he was actually really good at his job, and he became successful in his career, I guess you can say. And now that he was out in the army, he could be at home. It kind of worked out, I guess, a little for the best because his mom was getting older. So now that he was out of the army, he could take care of her more, or I don't want to say full time because he still had to go to work, but cuando llegaba, he could take care of his mom.
Well, I mean, the thing is, that's what he's been doing for his whole life.
Since he was a kid, yeah. While he was not working or spending time with the friends that he did have, he was perusing and playing around with the internet because the internet was becoming a big deal at that time. Like, it was new. Now, you were able to obviously communicate with people all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
And you could easily find and talk to someone who had similar interests as you, such as cannibalism. So according to Armin, he stumbled across cannibal websites on the internet and chat rooms and forums. And on these websites, just people were putting their fantasies all out there.
That is some bullshit. That is some crazy shit because ponte a pensar, like, who the fuck do you go and be like, oh yeah, I like to eat people. Let me go find somebody else. You know, like the thought process is fucking crazy to me.
But that other people think the same way that you do?
Like, for example, like, oh yeah, I like cooking. Okay, yeah, me too. You know, I get that. But like eating people,
like I fantasize about eating somebody. Let me see if somebody else feels the same way that I do. And then you come across multiple websites, forums, chat rooms of people that feel the same way, or at least fantasize about it. And we'll get into that in a little bit.
That is so crazy.
Like, especially at that time. Like, obviously, I think it's more common now.
Yeah.
It's like early, mid 1990s or whatever.
I mean, hey,
now
I've seen some shit, so.
There were so many ads of people offering themselves up to be eaten in many ways, shapes, and forms.
Wait a minute, que se los comieran.
People would be like, hey, if somebody wants to eat me, like, I am.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Now.
So I'm just going to put an ad out. Oh, hi, my name is Barbara and I want you to
obviously,
eat
you don't
me.
use your real name.
Well, duh. But I'm just saying, like, oh, hi, my name is Deborah and I want to be eaten today. Like, who the fuck
So his way of participating, as in like putting his fantasies out there, kind of like in the same way, I guess, was by creating websites and pictures of men who could be butchered for people to see.
Kind of like a catfish?
Like a Photoshop. He was like Photoshopping shit.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay,
because, you know, he wasn't really participating or anything like that. He was just creating.
But he was acting like he was.
Yeah, like he was just putting these things out there and stuff like that.
Kind of like an AI.
But that would eventually change because on September 2nd of 1999, Armin found his mom dead in her bed. She had died from a heart attack in her sleep.
Oh, well, she died pretty fast.
And now that she was no longer around, he felt that he was now free.
Hell yeah.
Liberated.
Shit. I would have been like fucking doing all kinds of shit.
He was able to finally make his fantasies a reality, or just be more.
Wait, I didn't say all that. I'm just saying, like, you know, you don't have to
like throw a party or something.
Yeah, like you can go on a date without having her there. I didn't say by like eating people and shit. I didn't say all that.
So he literally cleared all traces of his mom from the house, from the manor, Like everything that had been hers was gone within like 2 months of her passing.
She was tired of her ass.
Now, in the year 2000, at the age of 38, Armin posted an advertisement looking for a victim to slaughter.
Oh. Hey guys, this is Armin. I just wanted to know if you wanted to get slaughtered today. Let me know. Hit me up.
He posted many ads. I think it was about 60 of them.
What?
And
he was throwing himself out there a ver si alguien le contestaba.
And the ads all kind of said the same lines or kind of like the same wording.
What's up? Are you down for me to eat you? Like, what the fuck?
Hold up. And he was doing it under the name Frankie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And his ad stated that he was from Germany and that he was looking for a younger boy between 18 and 30. This person or this man had to be well built. And he actually got over 200 responses from people offering themselves up to be consumed.
Why am I not fucking surprised?
And he even scheduled meetups with these people, but they would all fall through in the end. Because...
Pues sí, güey. O sea, se cuenta que yo le voy a decir, oh, sí, ahorita voy para que me tragues. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, a lot of these
Maybe
guys...
they
just a lot of people were like, hey, we're just here like talking about it. Like, we're not actually going to go through with it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, in July, he received a message. I think this is how you say the name. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the words, but Jorg, I think was the name. And he was from a city nearby. And he was actually offering, le contestó a Armin, but not to offer himself up. He was offering up his colleagues.
No.
And to be potentially consumed. And so the two started chatting back and forth, and they discussed how they would go about.
So do his colleagues know that they're being offered?
I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah, no.
And they would go on and to discuss about like cutting people up and chopping
like,
body
hey
ups.
guys, do you want to eat Estela? You know, she's available. And then like, she's here, you want to eat. And then the people are like,
yeah, sure.
She has no idea. Yeah. Like, yeah, let's get together. Let's talk about it. Y Estela no tiene ni una puta idea. Like, what the fuck?
Now, they actually ended up meeting up, Jorg and Armin. And first
talking about his coworkers or colleagues.
No, they were just like, I don't know if they were messing around or whatever.
Oh, okay, okay.
But it was Armin that was pushing to meet up, right? So they first met up a couple of times in motels. I think they were outside of where Armin was from. And then they eventually met up at his house. And then they were acting out fantasies.
At Armin's house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Armin, while acting out these fantasies, Armin was like, I'm going to convince him. De por sí, we're already like playing. I'm going to convince him to let me eat him. So he tied Jorg up and he like con una pen, he marked specific sections of his body and told them the pieces of flesh that were under the skin. And Armin kept on like pushing, asking, can I eat you, I guess, if you want to say. And then Jorg was like, no.
Yeah.
He said that he didn't want to carry out the fantasies out in reality. Jorg said that he wanted to act them out, that's what he got off on. He was like, I'm not trying to like really get eaten. He's like, no. He was like, I need you to, I don't know if he was tied up or he was like shackled. I want to say he was tied up. He was like, I need you to cut off whatever and let me go.
Quit your shit and I'm leaving.
And let me go.
Like, ya me voy porque esto ya no me gustó.
Yeah. And Armin was like, yeah, dude, go. And from that moment forward, Armin, like for it to work in his mind the way that he thought it should work, whomever he consumed or slaughtered had to be a willing participant.
Okay.
And he wasn't going to accept anything else. Hey, if somebody doesn't want to do it, he's like, okay, fine, bye.
Basically, he was giving them a choice, right?
You had to have one. You want it. You have to want it. That was his thing. Like you have to want me to eat you.
Okay.
Now, in his continued search
of somebody that wants to be eaten,
yeah, Armin would post pictures of himself holding like butcher's knives, and he would also saw off mannequins and hang the body parts, just kind of to show people like a preview, I guess, of what could happen. And
oh God, yeah. Let me look at this picture con las pinches manos tinguilindo ahí, and I'm like, see, that's exactly what I want to look like.
But if you're looking at it, it's because you're interested.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It just makes like no me cabe en la cabeza like how people
are into that. Yeah. And you know how we say, oh, I just hit the mic, but you know how we say, hey, whatever you're into, as long as you're not hurting anybody or
Definitely.
yourself. But here you're
actually
hurting somebody.
someone. Like you're about to consume somebody's body. Like that's not okay.
On February 5th, 2001, Armin saw a posting. I don't know if it was like an ad or, like a post from Cater 99. Where he stated, quote, I offer myself up and will let you dine from my live body. No, not butchery, dining, exclamation point. So he responded to the promising post asking for specific on his looks because Armin had a specific type that he wanted.
He wanted. Mm-hmm.
And he had got an answer back that stated, quote, I am 36 years old, 175 centimeters, and weigh about 72 kilos. It also said, I hope you are really serious about it because I really want it. That's what Cater said to Armin.
I just have a quick question. So do these people think that they're not going to die and they're just going to...
Remember, a lot of them are just, it's just like...
bullshit.
No, not bullshit, but it's just like a fantasy. You're just talking about it. But a lot of them...
smoke, like just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
That they're not going to really do it. So like my question is, I guess that I'm just kind of confused and I know that you probably already explained this. But my question is, if you... are saying that you're gonna let him eat you, like this person right here. ¿Cómo se llama?
Cater 99.
So, si él dice, okay, sí, pero are they expected to die? Or are they just gonna like that? Like, I don't understand what their expectation is. It's like, okay, I want you to eat me, pero are you expecting to die?
I think a lot of people just... From what I was reading, a lot of people just like, yeah, we're going to meet up. When I see you, this is what we're going to do. But that's, ahí paraban. When it was actually time, when Armin was like, hey, let's meet up here, they'd be like, nah.
Okay.
Like, nah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, nah. They wouldn't show up or they would just stop communicating,
okay.
That.
I just wanted to know if it was something that they're like, okay, Armin, you can kill me and you're going to eat me dead.
Now... Armin or Frankie, as he was.
Frankie.
Yeah. And Cater 99, the two men would continue to communicate for several weeks, discussing their fantasies and how things should proceed, just like he had previously with others. Now, Cater 99, his real name was Bernd Jürgen Brandes. And he was a 43-year-old engineer from Berlin who was in a relationship.
So he was not 26.
36.
36.
No. He was successful, well-liked and well-respected. And Bernd was bisexual and had been in relationships with both men and women. But at the time he was communicated with Armin, his partner, his name was Renee Jasnik, who was not aware of Bernd's sexual secret fantasies. And he would later go on to say, quote, inflicting pain was never an issue in our relationship. I didn't like it. So he had no idea of what was going on with his boyfriend or his partner.
His partner fantasizing those kind of things.
Yeah. So in the messages between Armin and Bernd, where Bernd asks Armin if he had slaughtered a man before, Armin responds, quote, unfortunately only in my dreams, but in my thoughts I do it every night.
Holy shit.
And according to Gisela Fredrickson, who was a journalist for a news magazine in Germany, she followed the case closely, and she said that Bernd Brandes was actually suffering from a progressive type of extreme masochism. And his fantasy, Bernd Brandes' fantasy, was that he wanted to be eaten, but specifically he wanted to have his penis cut off. And he didn't care what happened to him afterward. Like, that's all he wanted. And he wanted to eat it.
Himself.
Yes. And then that's it. And he's like, if somebody wants to kill me afterwards, if I die, I don't care.
Okay.
Again, in their messages and these messages, and actually the messages I found were converted after they were released and they were translated into English. And I managed to find them on a website. So this is kind of like along the lines of what they
would talk.
Messaging. Yeah. Not all of it, but just some. Armin said, quote, to bite into your penis will certainly not be easy. Living flesh is somewhat more resistant than fried. But one thing is certain, our dream will be fulfilled, end quote.
Okay.
And Bernd said, quote, for both our sakes, I hope that's true. I hope you have also already thought about what's to be done with the rest. Fulfilling the dream shouldn't become a nightmare for you. No one will know where I've disappeared to. it was reported, I found this in one source, I don't know how accurate it is, but it was also reported that, like he didn't care what happened to the rest of him, but Bernd did suggest that his skull, like Armin should keep his skull and use it as an ashtray.
Okay. I mean, decorations.
Now, the pair decided to actually meet up. And they selected a meeting day, and it was going to be on March 9th. And on that day, Bernd told his partner, Renee, that he was going to go do some stuff for work. A trip that Renee had no idea that Bernd wasn't going to come back from. So Bernd bought a one-way ticket from Berlin to Kassel, which was just under 4 hours, the train ride.
So he knew he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to die because he's going to get his penis chopped off. He's going to eat it.
And then that's all he wanted.
And then that's all he wanted.
Yes.
And then he wanted, I mean, obviously, he die?
Yeah, he knew he was going to die.
Yeah, okay.
Now, Armin was going to pick him up at the train station and then drive to Westerfeld, which was just under an hour away from Kassel, the train station.
So he was going to take him back to his home. Mm-hmm. Okay.
But before leaving Berlin, Bernd made sure to delete any type of communication with Armin. His computer completely wiped everything, messages, so there was no trace on what they had discussed or planned. Now, on the way to Armin's, Bernd asked him if he had any types of painkillers or pills to make you sleepy because he wanted to be out cold or kind of like mostly gone when the slaughter began or the amputation.
So, ya le estaba dando como miedito.
No, he was like, hey, I don't want to kind of feel it. I just kind of want to be like already falling asleep. Like, do you have anything to help me?
Ya, pero ya le estaba dando como preocupación.
Armin said that he had cold medicine that could make him sleepy. But,
creía que le iba a dar syrup.
But Bernd was like, no, I need something stronger. So they actually stopped to buy alcohol, like a bottle of schnapps. And when they arrived at Armin's home, he showed Bernd around the first floor. And then they made their way to like the living room or like a sitting room. And then Armin went into the kitchen. He was like, I'm going to make us coffee, like two friends hanging out. And when he returned back to the sitting room, he said, well, this is according to Armin, Bernd, he had like undressed himself and he was just standing there in his birthday suit because he wanted Armin to admire his dinner. And then they both got undressed. Armin also got undressed and they sat down and drank coffees like they were out for lunch, literally talking about like just chatting, having regular old conversations.
Like, hey, how was your day?
Yeah.
What'd you have for dinner?
And then
What'd you have for lunch? Oh, nothing.
And then they started talking about how he was going to be, Bernd was going to be slaughtered. And like nothing.
Okay. Bernd. All right. Just sitting there naked. Mm-hmm. All right.
So afterward, Armin led Bernd upstairs to a slaughter room because he created a slaughter room. It wasn't very big. It was like I guess you call it a dungeon. It didn't have any windows. There were meat hooks.
Oh.
A large table. I think there was a bed, a tub of some sort where the parts,
blood.
Yeah. A camera set up because they were going to record. And when thrown out of the room, Armin made his way to the camera. He pressed record, and then they had sex, and then se durmieron un ratito, and then they woke up.
So wait. So how does Armin know that he likes the taste of human flesh?
He doesn't,
because he's never had it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks he's gonna like it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now, hours later, after they woke up, Bernd had changed his mind and told Armin that he wanted to actually be conscious when he was castrated. And cuando Armin se lo empezó a comer. So he wasn't going to drink the schnapps because I think he thought que eso lo iba a poner like too drunk or whatever.
No, él quería, o sea,
he was just like,
al 100.
Yeah. So he nomás le dio la pura bottle of cold medicine.
Oh, so
he
le dio syrup, como que si
I guess
estuviera
like
en Houston.
If it's gonna like numb the pain or something, but
they thought they were in Houston, so they were doing some syrup.
They were just going to wait until the cold medicine took effect and maybe make Bernd a little bit sleepy.
I mean, if it was NyQuil, but if it was DayQuil, te llevó la verga.
This medicine actually had like a very high alcohol content, but an hour passed and Bernd was still like fully awake. So this actually disappointed both of them because I think they had this in their mind that this is how it's going to go, and it wasn't kind of like going according to plan. Like kind of like the energy that had first, or that first was in the room when they got there and they were like chatting and all this going to happen.
Yeah.
And then now that they were just there, like just quiet, like staring at each other, like an hour had passed, and Bernd wasn't like nothing sleepy, so they were just like, this is a fail. And Bernd was like, yeah, I'm going to go home. So Armin drove Bernd actually back to the train station in Kassel. And he got off and he actually bought a ticket back home to Berlin. And Armin se bajó con él. And Bernd, he went to the restroom, kind of just splashed some water in his face. And while he was in there, he was thinking about how he was never going to find somebody else willing to actually do this with him. Like actually cut his penis off. I don't know if he obviously had been trying también on his end, I want to assume. And so after he left the restroom, he kind of convinced himself to give this another try. So he walked and he talked to Armin, who had gotten out of the car, like I just said, and told him that he had changed his mind. Armin himself, he was thinking like, I need to convince him because I need to actually go through with this because all these other failed attempts of getting this to work have obviously failed. And now he was like, no, I need to make it work.
And he probably really did like him. He probably was like, I like this.
No, he was like, he's my friend.
Oh.
Yeah.
But so they're friends. Okay.
Yeah, they were friends. So when the Bernd left the restroom, he talked to Armin. Said had told him that he changed his mind, that he wanted to try again. They both agreed to go through with it, like really, like truly go through with it. So they stopped again at another pharmacy for another bottle of cold medicine porque se había tomado aquella. And then they actually purchased sleeping pills.
I was about to say, you might need like a little bit more like a low PM stuff, like not really like just regular Dayquil,
Now, Bernd again chugged the bottle of cold medicine and took 10 sleeping pills. And then when they arrived at the house, he also chugged half of the bottle of schnapps.
Oh, he's trying to kill himself.
And then took another 10 sleeping pills.
Did you need all those sleeping pills? Like, is that necessary?
Now, he immediately, was dizzy. And...
I mean, that's a lot of sleeping pills, bitch.
And alcohol and cold medicine?
And cold medicine, yeah.
And then they made their way back up to the slaughter room where they smoked cigarettes and were listening to music. I don't know how you stay up with all that shit that he just took.
Yeah.
But... he told Armin to cut off his penis before he lost consciousness. And again, he wanted to witness it. So he was like, I need you to fucking hurry up. Because this is just what he desired most in the world. Like, this was his ultimate fantasy. So Armin actually went to grab a kitchen knife. And then
he didn't
came
even
upstairs.
have like a cleaver at least. Algo más fuertecito, because a kitchen knife, it might take a little bit longer.
Yeah. So, you're right. So he went and grabbed a knife from the kitchen, went upstairs, turned on the camera, and then, trigger warning, if you just want to skip the next 30 seconds, go ahead. But he swung the knife down on Bernd's penis, but nothing happened because it was dull. It wasn't like you said, like a cleaver. So he tried again with more force and nothing still. So
I mean, I think that he did think this out, but he didn't really think this out, because you might need something like a machete, something a little bit harder.
So he went to go get a sharper knife.
Yeah.
It was actually a chopping knife at this time.
There we go. That's what we need.
It was, I think, about 6:30 p.m. by this point. And Armin swung the sharper knife, and this time it made contact with Bernd's penis. Obviously, he screamed in agony, and Armin brought the knife down again and again and again until it was fully severed. And it is reported that Bernd, at first, he obviously was in pain, but then stated that it didn't even hurt him anymore. He must have been in shock, right? I mean, with everything in his system. And Armin then wrapped some bandages around Bernd to soak up some of the blood. But how much bandages are you wrapping up around him with all the blood loss that he's currently suffering?
That's a lot of blood, because that's a
your
lot.
Penis.
That's not only is that his penis, but that's like a lot of nerve ending there. Like, that's a lot of blood.
So again, trigger warning, you might want to skip this part if you're queasy or just, They both made their way down to the kitchen where the penis was cut in half and served on Armin's mother's best china plates.
Of course.
And they tried to eat it, but the skin was too tough. So Armin decided to fry it. And
Which they had been talking about.
he added some salt and pepper and some garlic, and it actually ended up shriveling up and burning that they weren't able to consume it.
Okay.
By this point, Bernd was bleeding out.
I feel like maybe they didn't literally, they really didn't think that I'm sorry, pero a lo mejor como que he was like, okay, this is never going to happen, because he really didn't think out the details.
Pero this was not Armin didn't want to eat a penis. Like,
No,
he
that
wanted
wasn't
flesh.
that wasn't
his
thing. That
Bernd's.
was, yeah. So
I don't think he cared much. He didn't want to really try. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you're right. But like for the whole thing where he had to like chop his penis off, but he didn't even get a good knife.
At first. Yeah.
So it's like, it was.
So by the time that, Bernd was bleeding out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was weak. Y tenía frío. So he wanted to be placed in a warm bath.
So no se lo comió nada
No, it shriveled up. Like, it was
hubiera
burnt.
comido los pedacitos aunque sea, if that's what he wanted.
So Armin filled the bathtub and helped him get in. And he had, obviously Bernd by now, he was like, okay, this is it. If I die, whatever, I already got my penis chopped off and this is what I wanted most in the world. And, thought that was his life purpose. Now it was Armin's turn, I guess you could say, to have his fantasy fulfilled. Armin placed Bernd in the bathtub. He went to a different room. Y ahí lo dejó.
Hasta que se muriera. Because so he wanted him dead. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So a couple of hours later, Bernd started to mutter out loud, and Armin walked into the bathroom, and they kind of had like a little bit of conversation, and Bernd continued to bleed out. So again, Armin left and returned an hour later, and Bernd by that point looked like a corpse, like in the tub.
Pues sí, güey.
His eyes were closed. So Armin was like, oh shit, ya se murió. Is he dead? So he kind of just reached out to poke his chest with the finger to see if there was any sign of life, but he felt cold to the touch. Like there wasn't even a flicker of an eyelid or anything like that. So he poked him harder, and then Bernd like startled. Como que like, oh shit. He came to, but he was so weak that he could barely even open his eyes.
Which is weird, because by this point, what happened to all the medicine that he took?
Exactly. I'm sure that was probably affecting him too.
Yeah.
Now, Bernd said that he was cold. The water obviously had gotten cold by that point. Y él tenía frío. So Armin's like, I could just move you to the bed that was in the slaughter room. And then Bernd said, yeah, let's do that. So barely, due to like, casi no podía ni con él, aquel ni se podía ni parar. And so he managed to get him to the bed. Y lo acostó and put him under some covers. Y Armin went to another room. He started watching TV. And then he would check on Bernd like every half hour. And on one instance where he went to check on him, he asked him if he had any last requests before he died. And Bernd answered that he wanted Armin to wait until he lost consciousness, like fully, and then slash his throat.
Okay. So even though he was going to be dead, he wanted him to slash his throat?
Mm-hmm. Because obviously he wasn't dying quick enough. So he was like, just wait until I'm unconscious, at least. And then slash my throat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And that happened at 3:30 in the morning. So it was March 10th.
So duró bastante para morirse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excitedly, Armin went to change into his slaughter outfit.
He had a fit. Oh, not the fit.
It's not what you think. Which consisted of dark blue pajama pants, Wellington boots, and a bed sheet that he used as an apron that had belonged to his mom.
Oh, pero he had a fit.
And then he made his way back to the slaughter room and made sure that the camera was on to record. So we're going to talk about him cutting up or killing Bernd. So if you want to skip this, go ahead. As his hand trembled, he picked up the large knife and stabbed him several times in the throat. He then suspended the corpse from a meat hook upside down so the body could bleed dry. And then he was going to gut it, clean it like a butcher. He first separated the head from the body and then placed it on the table. So according to him, he could join in on the fun.
So at this point, did he have better knives?
Yes, he had like an actual to cut up flesh.
¿Y por qué putas no sacó esa knife?
So
tenía un little set y la verga y no lo sacó para cortar
it was like 6 of them, I think.
Pobre.
So I just said he cut the head off and then he placed it on a table and then he would talk to it as he was doing everything else. He cut the first layer of skin off and so on until he reached the fat. Then he removed the organs. And in the middle of it, his camera ran out of tape. So he cleaned up, went to buy more tape, and then came back, proceeded to remove the organs. And,
did he put his fit back on?
and any other connective tissue inside and washed it. He then proceeded to dismember the body and remove the muscle fat tissue from the bone. And then he did it in sections, like he marked the body up and everything. And obviously it took him hours to do it, but I don't want to say it was hard work, but I mean, it's a lot.
It was tedious.
Yes. And then he was delighted to be doing it. It's everything that he had wanted for like, how old was he? 40, almost 40. He had been wanting it for like 30 years, let's say. So afterward, he buried Bernd's bones and the rest of his insides in a part of the garden, which was neglected and kind of looked like shit. And he didn't bury the skull. He decided to keep it.
To make it a ashtray?
I don't think he made it, but I think he planned to get rid of it later on. But in that moment, he didn't. He kept it. He then made his way to the kitchen where Armin cut the flesh into meal-sized portions, packed them into plastic storage bags, and then placed them in his freezer.
Oh, it's because he was going to meal prep.
He was going to wait a couple of days before eating the meat. And in the meanwhile, he watched the tapes of what he had done.
Ah, okay.
It was 3 to be exact. 3 tapes to relive the first stage of his fantasy. Now, his first meal of actual flesh was on March 12th.
Oh, so it took him about 2 days.
Like two days. And he made sure it was going to be special. Like he made it special. He washed and ironed a tablecloth to place over the table.
Okay.
Again, he got 2 of his mom's best china plates and the best cutlery sets he had and placed them in a proper setting. He then placed a folded white napkin next to his plate setting. He set up candles, turned them on, added a vase with flowers. Like he was having a date with himself and with Bernd. Like he dressed up. I mean, he wore nice pants, a nice shirt.
Otro fit.
Wore a tie and everything. And then he had actually been looking up recipes on how to cook the meat and on these cannibalistic websites or forums that people would post recipes. And he decided on steak.
Oh, wow.
And it included garlic, mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, potatoes, and seasonings. And once the meat was cooked to his liking, which was medium rare, he set it down on his plate to eat, along with the glass of red wine, a meal that he had waited for essentially all of his life.
His life, yeah.
And he was finally going to feel an inner connection through Bernd's flesh. That's what he thought. Armin later actually goes on to say that the first bite was strange but delicious. He described it as tasting like pork, but stronger, and that people wouldn't even be able to tell the difference.
That's disgusting.
Over the next few months, Armin would consume about 45 pounds of Bernd's flesh. He would cook the meat and incorporate it into all his meals somehow. He would even take it for lunch to work.
That is not okay. He took it to another level. Take it to lunch in the Tupperware, that's a little much. He did, yeah.
Now, let's go back to Bernd for a little bit. He never returned to Berlin,
Obvious.
On the evening of March 9th, which was a Friday. And his partner, Renee, was a bit worried because Bernd always checked in, and it was almost 10 p.m. at that point, and he wasn't home. But he told himself, hey, he must have gone out with some friends from work or something, He was probably going to be home late. And he was a little annoyed, but he was just like, whatever, whatever. Y se fue a dormir. When he woke up the next day and Bernd wasn't home, he kind of got a little bit worried, but he convinced himself that nothing was wrong. He had like an explanation for why he wasn't home. And he went out, enjoyed his Saturday, ran some errands, met up with some friends. When he got home, todavía no estaba Bernd back home either. So he called some mutual friends to see if any of them had seen or heard from him, but he was told that they hadn't. And it wasn't until actually Monday. So Bernd was gone all weekend. And on Monday, it was that Renee was panicking. His mind went to that Bernd had left him for somebody else.
Okay.
That's what he was mostly worried. Not that something had happened to him, but that he had left him for somebody else. So he actually called Bernd's job. And remember, I don't know if I mentioned this, but people at work where Bernd worked, they didn't know that he was in a relationship with the man.
Oh, okay.
So
no, you didn't mention that.
Yeah, so they thought that he was his roommate at work. So he called work and he left a voicemail for Bernd. And in the message, he told them, hey, please call me back, come home, whatever it is that happened, we can work it out. Now, later in that day, it was Bernd's manager that called the apartment.
They got the message and called back?
No, but just to ask why Akel never showed up to work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then that's when Renee decided to reach out to the police. Now, the police at first weren't too worried about Bernd's disappearance. They thought that the couple had probably just had like a domestic squabble.
Yeah, they were just upset. Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we'll look into it, but he's probably fine. With the lack of interest from the police, Renee reached out to a former journalist, Nina Herman, who worked at a city newspaper for help. Now, I don't know if they were friends, but how do you think to just call a journalist, right? So she agreed to help him look for Bernd. And she ended up finding a small lead when she contacted some of the couple's friends and acquaintances. She found out that a colleague of Bernd's had seen him at the Berlin railway station on March 9th.
So somebody actually
saw him at the train, at the train station. Now,
at the station?
Now, Nina and Renee made their way there and asked employees if they remember seeing him, but they didn't. I mean, you see a lot of people at a train station.
That's like a lot. Yeah.
A lot of people. After he had been missing for about a week, his picture was published in the paper, and several weeks passed without any useful information about Bernd's whereabouts. The police hadn't found anything either, so no one knew what happened to him, and he had just vanished. So people didn't think that foul play was involved. They just he up and left, and that was it.
Yeah.
Now, back to Armin. Now that he had tasted human flesh, human meat, he wanted more.
Uh-oh.
By June, Armin was back to looking for another willing victim. He posted another ad, or a number of ads, which was along the lines of the first one that I mentioned. And he received messages and chatted back and forth with a couple of people. But again,
nobody.
There was just, they were talking the talk, but they were walking the walk.
Well, yeah, sister. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, because I'm pretty sure that he really wanted to fulfill his lifelong dream. But bitch, ain't nobody trying to get eaten, bitch.
Yeah. Eventually, Armin was able to get 4 men to agree to come over.
4?
Yeah. One of them was from Kassel, which was nearby, which is where he picked up Bernd from at the train station. When this man made it to Armin, and this is, I don't want to say obviously when you see people, you don't know what they're into or what their personal lives are like. But
definitely,
these people were people that hotel managers or people just regular people that you see every day. And you wouldn't even think. But, it was just really interesting. Like I said, one of them was from Kassel, which was nearby. And when this man made it to Armin's home, he made it on the slaughter table. He actually made it that far. Okay. Yeah. He was naked when Armin hung him from the meat hook. But then he said that it was an uncomfortable position. Y tenía frío, and he backed out. And Armin cut him down, and the two had dinner. I think it was even pizza. And then lo dejó que se fuera. He was like, well, he doesn't want to be here. Okay, bye. Next.
Well, I mean, at least, I mean, I'm not trying to be on his side or anything.
No, you're not on his side.
But at least he's
not
trying.
Forcing anybody.
He's not forcing. I mean, he's not a fuerzas te voy a matar la verga,
The second man who arrived at Armin's home was from Essen. After he had been wrapped in cellophane, he asked Armin to lock him in a wooden cage and feed him like he was an animal. Armin was like, bro, this is not what we're here for. Pero el guy was like, please do it. So he did. And Armin did feed him like he wanted, like an animal in the cage. And then that's all he wanted. And then he was like, okay, this is all I want. I don't want to be eaten. He's like, I just, I get excited by simulating death, but didn't want to go through with the real thing. So Armin was like, oh, Armin, let him go. The third man was from Odenwald. And this man wanted Armin to just straight up decapitate him.
Oh.
And he was pushing Armin to do it, really pushing. He's like, I need you to cut off my head. And Armin, he was like, no, don't push me. Let me do my thing.
He has standards.
Yeah, he does.
Has standards,
And he also, this is from this book. It said, quote, that he thought that the man was, quote, too stupid and too fat in person to be worthy of slaughter, end quote.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, he had his standards, like I said.
Yeah, he had
a preference, yeah.
So he was let go. And then the fourth man was from London. And it seemed that this one was going to be the one, a second willing victim. Mm-hmm. And the man was into it, and he was wrapped in cellophane and actually had pins stuck to the body indicating where the organs were because they had agreed that they were going to be cut out to be consumed. So to kind of rile up the man or just kind of, tease him about what was to come, Armin showed him pictures of York, the first guy, remember?
Yeah. El que lo subió a la silla.
Yeah. Where he was hanging upside down and that freaked him out. asked the guy that he was already like pinned and everything. And he said that he was scared and didn't want it to go that far, that he wanted to be released so he could go home. So Armin let him go.
Okay.
Armin was super disappointed, and
eran 4 o 6. ¿Cuántos a la verga?
months had passed and he was feeling down. Armin was like,
I'm never going to find anybody.
yeah. And he hadn't been able to find a second victim. But he told himself that either way, he had done it already, right? He did it once, and he had eaten someone and wanted to kind of brag about it. He wanted people to know.
Okay.
And he thought that he could share his accomplishment, which quote unquote to him was an accomplishment, with the cannibal community, where he could get appreciation for it. So he went online and boasted about what he had done on a couple of forums. And then he took it a step further when he published photos of the men who had gone over to his house and almost went through with it, but they didn't. But he just posted pictures. He was telling about what he did to Bernd, but he never posted any of the stuff. Like the
actual Bernd pictures.
No,
he posted the other guys.
Yes.
Okay.
And on July 9th, 2001, a 23-year-old Austrian university student came across Armin's ads and his post bragging about what he had done. And this specific Austrian student, he wasn't into cannibalism himself. He was more into like bizarre fantasies, but somehow ended up on the cannibalism forums, and he came across the post. And I guess, I don't know if it was morbid curiosity, but it made him message Frankie to chat about cannibalism. And he offered himself up to be slaughtered to see if he could get a reaction. I mean, this Austrian university guy is just trying to, I don't want to say fuck with Frankie, but just going to be like, hey, I want to do it.
To see how far he'll probably go?
Yeah, he'll take it.
Okay.
He was just curious. Like I just said, cannibalism wasn't really his but his fantasy, to say. So Armin was excited, of course, and told him that since he was young, it meant soft and juicy tenderloin steaks.
Oh.
So this freaked out this 23-year-old, and it made him realize that whatever Armin had posted, he was like, oh shit, like he's not lying.
It's
like
true.
He's done this before. Like he killed somebody.
Yeah.
So he contacted the federal criminal police.
This motherfucker said, let me call the police right quick because this is not okay.
I think this is how you say in Wiesbaden. I'm so sorry. Obviously, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it was actually in Hesse, where I think that's what we say is a state, but I guess their version of a state. So he told the federal criminal police that everything that had transpired, answered all their follow-up questions, and then told them that he wanted to remain anonymous.
Yeah, because definitely.
The police thanked him and told him that they would look into it, and they got to work right away.
Well, good. I'm glad that they listened to him. Malo fuera que no le hubieran hecho caso, you know?
So undercover officers accessed the cannibalism forums.
Okay.
And answered Frankie's ad, where they determined that he meant whatever he was saying or putting out there.
Oh, shit.
And it would take them 2 months before they identified Frankie as Armin.
Okay.
And about 1.5 years later before they knocked on his door. So obviously, I don't know what the processes are in Germany or how long, or maybe they're trying to build a case or actually, get a warrant. On December 10th, 2002, at 8:45 in the morning, 3 police officers knocked on Armin's front door. He invited them in, offered them some coffee, even pulling out a chair for a female officer. The police were like a little bit stunned because they're like, hey, this man looks regular man, has manners, and he was supposed to have done these terrible things, but here he is offering us coffee, pulling out a chair for, the woman. And he didn't.
I mean, he was in the military, Estela. So, not only that,
mom.
But look at his mom, yeah.
So he didn't seem nervous, not one bit. And they eventually let Armin know that they had a search warrant and for his home based on suspicion that he had killed a man and eaten him. And he asked them, hey, what are you basing your suspicions on? And who made these allegations against me? And they told them, well, you, because we messaged you and you told us what you did.
Oh, my God.
Now, they asked him, the police officers asked him, he had ever eaten human flesh. And he said that he may have.
A lo mejor.
Maybe.
Maybe.
After questioning him for about 20 minutes, they realized that he wasn't going to confess immediately. So police then decided to search the property. The home itself was dirty. It actually looked like crap. Like nobody took care of it. It was like falling apart. In the kitchen, they searched the fridge and they didn't find anything in it. And then they moved on to the freezer. So it looked like he had like a chest freezer.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, this is a really big freezer for somebody that lives by themselves. So they opened it and found packed blue bags of what looked like meat. And it was about 20 bags. The only other things they found in there was a frozen pizza and a dead rat.
Was he going to eat the rat too?
No, I think le dio flojera sacarla, so ahí la dejó.
Oh.
They actually ended up searching, like I said, they were searching the home and they made their way to the slaughter room.
Sadly, guys, I just want you to know that out of all of that she just said, the rat made me kind of want to vomit instead of everything else that we've talked about today.
When they made their way to the slaughter room, they saw knives neatly laid out on a table. They saw meat hooks, mannequin hanging from them. There, obviously the room had drains for whatever liquids.
Bodily fluids.
Yeah, that. But they're like, okay, this doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, after their search of the home, they ended up leaving with evidence that included 16 computers. Because remember,
16.
he was a technician, a computer, so he would fix computers. 200 hard drives.
Damn.
300 videos, which didn't include our Bernd's video.
Oh,
it didn't
okay.
include that video. Not right now. Frozen meat, which they took samples of it. Everything that was.
So did he still have meat? The Bernd? He still had some.
Yes.
Oh wow! I thought you said he ya se le había acabado.
No, he ate about 45 pounds.
Oh, okay.
Or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, 45 pounds, and he probably weighed like
about 200 almost.
No, well, it was like 180. Well, maybe a little bit less.
It was 198. 198. I converted with the weight.
So then he was, so he had a lot left.
Yeah.
Okay. Pero lo aburrió, yo creo. Because he wanted
I think he was spreading it out para que le durara since he couldn't find another one.
Oh, okay.
That's what I believe. But everything that was found in the home didn't mean that he had killed a man. And so they could only charge Armin with, quote, glorification of violence based on the violent videotapes and pictures found in the home and in the computers. They had to wait until the results of the meat analysis came back to be able to charge him with anything else. And that wasn't going to happen right away.
And what year were we in this time?
2002.
Okay. So, I mean,
you can test something to see if it's human or animal, right?
Definitely.
Now, in the meantime, Armin was a free man. But he was shitting bricks because he's like, it's only a matter of time before the analysis of the meat come back and then they're going to catch me.
They're going to catch me.
So he decided to get ahead of it and get help, quote unquote. He drove to Rotenburg for his appointment with the local lawyer named Harold Ermel. And Harold Armin had hired him before, but it was for like a drunk driving offense, not a criminal offense. I mean,
not you eating people.
Yeah. At the appointment, Armin confessed to Harold, which poor man almost fell out of his chair.
Fuck. This guy's probably like one of those.
He's his practice was so small, and he mostly dealt with like divorces, like family law.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He's probably like one of those people that, if you had a car accident, call the hammer or some bullshit like that. Y luego le están diciendo que I ate a whole fucking body and it's half of it is in my freezer. Like, home. What the fuck?
He told them that he had killed and eaten someone and needed his legal advice. And Harold, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, told them, you just need to give yourself up to the police.
I mean, ¿qué más le va a decir? All he does is he just civil shit.
Yeah. And Armin was like, okay, bet. He didn't have a choice. What are you gonna, So.
Because who was gonna defend him?
I mean, what are you going to defend?
No, that's what I'm saying. Who, like in his mind, you're saying.
Were you saying like you're going to plead insanity?
Yeah, like what are you going to plead? Like, no.
Harold contacted the police and told them that his client had just admitted to killing a man and consuming the corpse. So the police drove to Harold's office and issued an arrest for Armin right there and then. And he was arrested.
He waited for him.
Yeah, he called them to his office. They're like, hey, come get him. He was taken into custody and confessed to his crime. He also gave them Bernd's name so they could identify him, like, properly.
This guy, I just feel like this guy wasn't the worst.
The motive behind, not that it was okay. I'm not saying no.
Not that it was okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he wasn't like it.
He wasn't okay.
No, he wasn't okay. What I'm saying is like, what I'm trying to say is that like, at least he was like, okay, yeah, I'll turn myself in. Okay, you don't want me to eat you, fine. Like he wasn't like, I don't think, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. I guess I'm not doing very well at that.
I know what you mean. It's
Like,
hard to kind of put it into words.
Like, yes, he had his fantasy of eating people or eating flesh. Not people, just flesh, pero...
People.
Well,
Yeah.
sí, güey. Pero what I'm saying is, like, at the same time, he wasn't the, like, worst.
No, yeah.
I guess.
I get what you're trying to say. Yeah. Now, he was kept in custody overnight, and the following morning, he continued to cooperate with police. Over various interviews, he told them how he met Bernd and what transpired between them, and that they both agreed that it was going to be recorded. He also showed them the chat rooms he frequented and where they could find evidence that they needed. At the same time, investigators returned to his home to continue searching the property. This time with the help of canines, excavators, and a hearse for Bernd's remains.
Oh,
that's sad.
That is very...
The dogs were alerted to a specific area in the garden where it looked like the soil had been disturbed. Mm-hmm. They excavated the area where they found trash mostly, but then it hit something hard. So as the object was pulled from the ground, they realized that it was a large bone and it looked human. Mm-hmm. So they continued to pull more bones from the ground, and they knew that they had found Bernd's remains. Now, Armin had told them that he had only killed one person, but the canines and excavators continued to work in that area of the garden for another 5 hours to make sure no other remains were found, because they didn't know. Maybe he was just saying, I just did it to one, but he probably did it. They didn't know that he might have done it to more people. Might have done it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So no other remains were found, not human anyway. They did end up finding remains of a dog, but I think it was his dog that had died, and they just buried him in the backyard or in the garden. Now, investigators searched the grounds for 5 days before they concluded that they had all the evidence they needed and that there had only been one victim.
Wow.
Yeah. Professor Manfred Rees, a forensic pathologist, tested the meat found in Armin's freezer and the bones found in the garden. Now, the whole skeleton was there, and only the soft tissue was missing, which is what Armin had eaten. Armin stated that he had consumed about 1/3 of the meat, and Bernd, like we just, mentioned, weighed about 198 pounds, almost 200. So he had eaten, actually, like they were able to accurately say what amount of Bernd he had eaten because they weighed everything, right?
Yeah.
So he had eaten actually about 66 pounds, 1/3.
1/3 of him.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest was in the freezer.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Now that he had been identified, I just can't imagine what his family must have felt when they're like, hey, he died and somebody ate him. Like,
well, the thing is, he died, somebody ate him, and he went there on his own will.
Like, this is what he wanted.
This is what he wanted. No, te imaginas, like, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that ¿cómo se llama el señor este? Armin les había dicho, he wanted me to do this. Like, he probably showed them, because I know that Bernd had already erased everything.
But on his end,
he probably showed the messages of what he was saying. Y como tú dijiste earlier, like, nobody had an idea
what he was into. And that's the thing, like, you see people every day. We see people every day walking by, and you just... what
happens behind closed doors.
Yeah,
And like you said before, everybody has their right to like what they like.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying now is, like, you're hurting other people at this point now.
Like, he is no longer alive.
Yeah. That's
crazy. Now, Armin was evaluated by various state psychiatrists, and he admitted to them that he first dreamt of eating another man at an early age. And he also told them that he saw Bernd in front of him often and imagined he could still touch his body. Mm-hmm. And since he had consumed him, he didn't feel alone and felt more mentally stable. Not only that, but he believed that he had also absorbed some of Bernd's qualities and abilities, such as being able to speak better English than he could before.
Oh. Well, I mean, but that was his whole deal. Like, that's what he thought was going to happen. Like,
he wanted somebody to be with him forever.
Yeah, that he believed in not reincarnation and incarnation, like inside.
When asked why he had done it, he said, quote, "I got a kick out of the idea of having another person inside of me," end quote. And also he said, quote, "I had the fantasy and in the end I fulfilled it," end quote. And that's all he cared about. The authorities filed murder charges against Armin after they discovered that Bernd had been killed by a slit to the throat.
Because he wasn't dead. He was just passed out. Okay, that makes sense.
And he was transferred to a high-security prison where he stayed for a year until his trial.
Because in my mind, I was thinking, is he going to get away with it? Porque technically he was doing it on his own will. Pero, like he said, just make sure that I'm dead. So I guess make sure that you kill me after I'm like out of it, you know? Mm-hmm. So I guess pero I mean, that's what actually killed him. He didn't really die on his own.
So, yeah, he didn't bleed out.
He didn't bleed out, yeah.
Now, cannibalism is not a crime in Germany. And in a lot of countries, actually.
Wow.
Even here, there is technically no law against consuming human flesh.
Let's not eat each other.
Except in one state, Idaho. So Harold's defense of Armin included painting him in the most wholesome light possible. And since Bernd had wanted to be killed, like voluntarily, and there was plenty of evidence to prove that, Harold was going to propose that Armin should be convicted of killing on demand, which is a charge in euthanasia cases, which carried a 5-year term maximum.
Okay.
Armin's trial began on December 3rd, 2003 in Kassel, and it was the country's first cannibalism prosecution case. In Germany, where a case involved a death, the jury consisted of 5 judges. So it was just 5 people, 3 professional judges, and 2 members of the public. That's the jury.
Okay.
And they would make the decision.
Okay.
Now, in his opening statement, Marcus Kohler, the prosecuting attorney, told the court that Armin was being accused of killing Bernd Jürgen Brandes by stabbing him in the throat. Now, in a book, I read a book for this case, it stated, I found this interesting. When they would mention Bernd in as far as the court or the trial, they just stated Bernd Jürgen B. And it explained that they do that because last names or surnames are not given in court to protect the person's privacy or the victim's privacy, which I thought was interesting.
That is very.
So the prosecutor stated the charges, and there were 2. The first was for murder for sexual satisfaction, since, again, there were no laws against cannibalism.
Yeah.
And that he filmed it to relive it. And the second charge was disturbing the peace of the dead, for carving.
Well, basically,
bodies.
what do they call it here? Tampering with the corpse. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And he also, obviously, went on to relate to the jury what Armin did with the flesh of Bernd and how he went from consuming it to storing it.
And taking it for lunch.
Yeah.
In the Tupperware.
Armin spoke next and told the court his reasonings. He stated that it affected him when his dad abandoned him, went back to his childhood, and his mother when he was young, and that caused him to feel lonely and neglected. Since then, he fantasized about having a blonde, quote, younger brother who would be with him forever, and that would be possible if he consumed him. He also denied the charge of murder for sexual satisfaction and added that he didn't want to have sex with the partner he chose to slaughter. He recounted the events of March 9th, 2001, from the very beginning, all of them. And he was very matter of fact, showed no emotion, just looked very cold demeanor. And it was crazy because when you see him, he's standing or he's speaking and he's wearing a suit, obviously he looks very presentable. And he looks like, and it says on there, he looks like he could be there for a minor offense, like a traffic violation. And you see him there talking, but the shit that is coming out of his mouth against, or juxtaposition with what he looks like, you're just it doesn't. Yeah, you would think that would be like a monster, like somebody that does that is like an evil person.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like we were talking before. I'm not saying that he wasn't a bad guy. It's just that the person that we're talking about, he had more of a meaning to what he did. He wasn't trying to just be evil and I'm going to kill you anyway. No, he had a meaning to what he did.
Or he according to him.
According to him. Yeah. Not that it's okay. What I'm saying is like you said, it was an everyday person that you saw on the street, and he was just weird. A little weird, but we all are in our own way. And he was just I just want to eat people. The fuck?
Don't be eating people, though.
Please don't.
So he never denied what he did, and he also told the court that he continued looking for willing victims after Bernd. He was like, yeah, I continue looking, but only they had to be willing. On the second day of the trial, witnesses started giving testimony. And they would continue to do so for days. And I think the trial only lasted like 12 or 10 days or something like that.
What were the witnesses say? Like people that he would like...
Yeah,
call?
Witnesses included some of the men who came to Armin's home for what they had discussed. Yes. Like once they were there, they backed out. Another witness was a former neighbor of Armin, whom he carried a sexual relationship with. And he stated that cannibalism was never involved. Another witness was another former neighbor, a woman, who also was a friend of Armin's. And she stated that he was a good man, sensitive and friendly. They used to like walk their dogs together and all that stuff. And she actually visited him while he was in prison, and she would like write letters and stuff like.
Because she probably had a good relation, a good impression of him.
No, they were friends.
They were friends, yeah. Now she was really his friend, not like the other guy that he thought. Yeah.
No, and he, in the same book that I mentioned, which I'll link it. I forgot, I didn't mention the name, but I'll link it. It stated that Armin thought that women were too valuable to eat. He just wanted it to be a man. No, women are here to reproduce and they're more valuable, and I need to eat a man, not a woman. Like, I'm not going to touch a woman.
Okay, lobster. People you don't consume women lobsters, you only consume male lobsters. Not that anybody cares, but anyway.
Now, one of his half-brothers, Damien, went to court, and he didn't speak, but he wrote out a statement which was read out loud, and it stated that, growing up, he's like, Armin was, as far as he knew, he's like, Armin was a normal boy. He liked playing outside, and
with Polly, bro?
And he never displayed or showed any signs of being interested in violence.
¿Y por qué chingados no se comió a Polly?
Because he's an animal?
Well, yeah. We could have picked that instead of people.
Witnesses for Bernd were also in court and testified. Renee, his boyfriend at the time, stated that they were planning to go on vacation and that he never expressed any thoughts of suicide. An ex-girlfriend of Bern's...
You really can't say that, though, because he...
I mean, to him at least.
To him at least,
yes,
yeah. But you really, like... I know where he's coming from, too, but
he didn't know. That's the thing.
He didn't know.
And an ex-girlfriend of his testified, too, something along the same lines of what Renee had said. But another ex-girlfriend also testified and went on to state that during their relationship, Bernd's desire for more hardcore and unusual sex grew. And while he was alive, Bernd liked to hire sex workers. And one of his regulars and another one that he hired once or twice also testified that Bernd often urged them to bite and amputate his penis.
Oh, okay.
And he even offered money to one of them to do it.
So this was something that was definitely in his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, an exhibit displaying Armin's weapons, or the dungeon, the slaughter room, was presented to the jury, which included 6 knives, an axe, a meat grinder was, shown. The 3 tapes that recorded Bernd's slaughter were played. Now, everyone that wasn't the judges, Armin, the 2 attorneys, expert witnesses, and the court reporter were asked to leave, like ushered outside. Now, after the video ended, the prosecution presented the question. If Armin only wanted to eat him, then why didn't he just record only doing that?
Yeah.
Why did he record the whole thing?
Yeah, like cutting him up and stuff.
If he wasn't doing it for sexual satisfaction.
Not only that, but if he didn't care about doing that, then why did he have sex with him?
Because he liked him. Now, obviously, the messages between Armin and Bernd were also read out loud. And finally, expert witnesses were asked to determine if Armin was criminally responsible for Bernd's murder. Psychiatrists and psychotherapists testified essentially that Armin wasn't. They all fully agreed that he wasn't mentally ill. So that he didn't need to be sent to a mental institution.
I honestly don't think that he was mental. I think that he had trauma, but I don't think he was mentally ill.
Like where you had to be institutionalized.
Yeah, no.
Now, one of them further stated that Armin had a personality disorder, lacking empathy and self-control. Another one described Armin as extremely smug and self-assured and had a schizoid personality. He added that Armin was trying to consume a human to fulfill the void left by his father and his half-brothers. So the fact that Armin was presented by the experts as mentally stable was a win for the defense, because if he hadn't been, he could have been sent to a mental institution where he would have spent years of his life, instead of he just got convicted and went to or served a sentence of 10, 15 years. Now, when the prosecuting attorney addressed the court, he stated that yes, Bernd was willing to die, but that he may have not been in the right frame of mind at the time to be making that choice. And Armin took advantage of that.
Yeah, and not only that, but did they mention that he ate all those damn pills?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He pushed for a life sentence because Armin was too dangerous to be out, in regular society.
Especially because he was telling them that he was going to do it again.
He was like, hey,
I'm looking, bro.
Yeah. Now, murder carries a minimum of 15-year life sentence in Germany.
What?
And then you can be up for parole. On the other hand, Harold pushed for the killing on demand charge, since the evidence showed that Bernd wanted to be killed. Also, that Armin was psychologically disturbed, but not a monster. I guess that's a way to put it. Psychologically disturbed, not mentally ill per se. Like,
that's perfect. That's a perfect way to the way that I was thinking in my mind. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
He's not a monster, but he's still not well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly, Armin spoke and gave his final statement. He relayed one more time that Bernd wanted to die and he just assisted him. He said, quote, Bernd came to me on his own free will to end his life. My friend enjoyed death. For him, it was a nice death, end quote.
Fuck you and your friend.
He added, quote, I regret much, but I can't undo it. And, quote, I had a big kick. I don't need to do it again.
Oh, my God. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
There's some things we just have to keep to ourselves sometimes. And that would
he never thought that he did anything wrong. That was always what he presented. He's like, I didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, to be honest,
I was fulfilling his wish.
Yeah, and to be honest,
you know better. Killing somebody is you're still killing somebody.
That's what I'm saying. The thing is, the fact that he didn't let him just. I know it's going to sound bad, that he didn't just let him bleed out on his own. You actually took the knife to his throat. That right there was like, okay, I can't wait longer. I just need to kill him.
Yeah.
So now you're intentionally killing him so that you can start doing whatever you did to him, cleaning him or whatever, and eating him.
Now, since the case was the first one of its kind, it would take longer for the jury to decide whether Armin committed murder or just killed someone, right? The difference. Usually the verdict was given on the last day of proceedings, but the presiding judge, Heinz Volker Mutze, hopefully I said that right, stated that he and the rest of the jury needed more time. Obviously, the case was complicated. And it would set precedent for any future cases of its kind. So, you just can't willy-nilly
this is what's going to happen. Definitely.
Now, the final verdict was given on January 30th, 2004. Armin Meiwes was convicted of manslaughter.
What?
Judge Mutze stated, quote, legally, this is manslaughter. Killing a person without being a murderer. The famous lust for murder was not there.
Okay.
Which was clear in the videotapes. To want to consume human flesh is not a base motive, which is what he was doing it to consume it. The primary motive for Armin was to make another man part of himself, which showed how psychologically unwell he actually was. So, but you understand what he's saying, right?
I understand where he's coming from, but I just don't know. I don't think I agree with that because there were so many small details of the fact that, I mean, personally, I'm not a professional, but as an outsider, what I can see is like, there's so many things that you're like, well,
but clear is like, the motive.
Well, I get that. The motive, because the motive of him was he wanted to eat him.
Yeah. And to want to consume human flesh is not a base motive.
I guess.
In Germany.
Well,
obviously, apparently, I don't know, we're not here since here it's not illegal either.
Please don't eat anything.
So he was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison.
That's it.
Armin and his lawyer appealed the decision.
Oh, he still appealed?
Well, 8.5 years was the light sentence. Obviously, a lot of people had a lot to say about this sentence.
What the fuck?
But while 8.5 years was a light sentence for what had taken place, according to some people, Armin wanted an even shorter sentence because he didn't think that he did anything wrong.
What he wanted to do, go back and ask for more people if they wanted to be eaten?
Harold was going to push again for the killing on demand charge, which would carry a minimum sentence of only 6 months to 5 years.
Wow.
Also, like I just said, he didn't think he did anything wrong.
And I mean,
pero se hubiera quedado con los 8.5. Pero vas a ver ahorita. The prosecutors also wanted to have the manslaughter conviction overturned. They strongly believed that Armin was guilty of murder for sexual satisfaction and disturbing the peace of the dead, which were the two charges they brought against him in the first trial. On April 22, 2005, the German Court of Appeals reversed his initial conviction. His retrial began on January 12, 2006 in Frankfurt now. Prosecutors needed to find tangible reason for Brandis's death. Again, they argued that Brandis was not mentally well and Armin should have not taken advantage of him. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but like we were talking about, he had alcohol and other over-the-counter drugs in his system. You just can't be making that decision. Oh, sí, mátame. You'd be like, okay, ahorita te voy a matar, even though I know you're not thinking properly. No.
And the thing is, not only that, but, at this point, remember, he had taken the alcohol, he had taken all the medications. So he was already out of it because he had already cut off his penis.
Mm-hmm. And he was just bleeding out.
And he was bleeding out.
Yeah.
So, matter of the fact, or I don't know if people know about this, but once you're bleeding out, let's say like us that we bleed out every month, what happens when you're really losing a lot of blood? You feel lethargic. You feel not well.
He was cold to the touch when he was going into the bathtub and touching him or feeling
poking
for him.
and shit. So, no.
Now, it was also discovered by pathologists who rewatched the tape that Bernd was, like we were talking about, still breathing when Armin began to cut his throat. Mm-hmm. He moved his head. You can see in the video. You can see it. So Armin had previously stated that Bernd was dead before he started cutting him up. So the question posed was, if that was the case, why did he stab him in the neck first and then slash his throat? Why didn't he just cut him up if he was already dead, right? If Armin thought that he was dead, why not just start cutting him up primero?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because he actually stabbed him twice in the neck first and then slashed his throat and then started cutting him up.
So he was like, let me make sure that he's dead.
Really dead.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. Not only that, but psychologists testified that they believed that he would reoffend.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he said so. Because at this point, obviously, he was getting help in prison and, he was getting
he probably found a few people in prison that would probably let him eat him. So,
no le tenían miedo.
Shit.
Obviously, he was well-behaved and such, but people were scared of him.
Shit, I would be too.
Since he had a test for human flesh, it was a matter of time before the urges resurfaced. And he also, again, he showed no sense of guilt. He was like, I didn't do anything wrong. There's interviews of him in prison. You could tell he did not, I don't want to say he didn't give a fuck to meet up, but you could tell he's like, I don't think I did anything. That you can see it on his face.
I understand at to what point they could say, okay, he's mentally ill. Yes, you're right. He's mentally ill, but disturbed. But in his mind, he was doing exactly what he thought that it was right. And for him, it was his satisfaction of eating someone.
Yeah, but that's not right.
But the thing is, he did everything right. He went, he asked him. He said, hey, do you want to do this?
It's I'm going to help you and you help me.
Yeah,
we're both getting something out of it.
Hey, do you want me to kill? Hey, let me get you pizza. Hey,
you don't want me to kill you? Okay, bye.
Okay, fine, bye. In his mind, he was doing the right thing in his own mind. Yeah. Obviously, it's not okay for you to eat anybody, but in his mind, he's like, oh yeah, I took the right steps.
Yeah, I helped him. I assisted him in killing him, but I'm not a murderer.
No, because he wanted me to.
Yeah.
He said cut right here.
Cut my penis first.
Yeah, well, cut my penis and
he was going to die regardless.
Yeah, he was going to die.
With just cutting off the penis. He was going to bleed to death.
Yeah, but the thing is, he could have gotten him help. There could have been a lot of ways.
Yes.
Instead of you stabbing him in the neck and then slicing his throat and then hanging him upside down.
Yeah. On May 6, 2006, he was convicted of the murder of Brandis and was sentenced to life.
That's what's up.
Which in Germany carries a minimum sentence of 15 years before, you could be up for parole. He applied for probation in 2017 and it was denied due to, quote, lack of favorable social prognosis.
Yeah, because nobody's going to want him out on the streets and meeting
think
people.
That he is, still.
He's still probably no, you go and talk to him and be like, hey, I didn't do nothing wrong.
Now, Armin is serving his sentence in the penitentiary in Kassel where he receives therapy. And also there was a movie made about this case. Not this case plays a part in a movie with Carrie Russell. I think she's a detective and there's a case like this. And I don't think Armin wanted it to come out, but ended up coming out in 2006. But yeah, that's the case of Armin Meiwes.
To be honest, I feel really bad for the family of Bernd because of the fact that they probably were like, we could have helped him if he needed help, you know,
but it can't, yeah.
you know,
it's just,
and I get that. But like, for example, me being a mom or a sister or whatever, like I would have been like, if I knew that he was having these problems and he wanted to die, then we could have gotten him, because he was mentally unstable himself, you know?
Yeah.
So we could have gotten him help or whatever. And I feel bad. And the worst part is the fact that someone that did it, supposedly in his mind, he was helping him, his friend. Bitch, what the fuck you talking about? You didn't help nobody. You killed our family member. Like, that's how I feel.
and it's, I mean, you just didn't just kill him, you ate him. And he wanted that. That's hard to accept, you know, like he wanted to be eaten and then die.
Like I said before, everybody is into different weird stuff, and
But don't be
you know,
hurting some
but please
people.
don't eat people. Okay. Well, as always, this is a crazy another case. Thank you for joining us for our 100th. I can't believe it's been 100.
I know.
That's a lot of fucking episodes.
It's our longest one, probably.
Yeah, I don't even have 100 friends. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you would like to follow us on Instagram, we are at
Cafecito and Crime Pod. And if you would like to share our podcast, download our episodes, rate us, and you know, you can listen to us on anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
We will see you in the next 100. I hope you have a wonderful day, night, wherever it is. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.